Namaste friends, this is Manjunath, Biology faculty from CET Sankalp course. Welcome you all for the biology session. Today we are going to discuss about the chapter Locomotion and Movement. What is locomotion? So as we all know that is the voluntary process which includes movements. So voluntary process which includes movements resulting in a change in location. Voluntary movements resulting in a change in location. So means as a result of many movements, right? So many movements which leads to or which helps in changing location. We can also say changing place or location. Changing place or location. So let us take difference between the locomotion and movement. So locomotion means that includes change in place. Movement means where body parts or organs or organs move without change in position. Without change in the position. Here they won't change their location, or you can say that place. Here they're going to change both position and location. So it includes they're going to change both position and location. Here in case of movement only they're going to change the position but without changing location, or you can say that the place. Next, in this case, in case of locomotion, it includes like locomotory organs which helps in walking, traveling, propelling, etc. But here the movements are many different forms. Here no locomotory organs are involved. No locomotory organs involved. Or you can say no specialized organs involved here. And movements are of different types, or you can say no special organs. Instead of saying no locomotory organs involved, you can say no special organs involved for a particular movement. In case this is always voluntary, right? It takes place at organismic level only. Organismic level. ಇದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ತೋರಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ. But whereas here that is in the movement, generally we can say that this may be both voluntary or involuntary. So voluntary andaga you raising hand, right? Raising hand. Involuntary, that we can say that peristalsis movement, or you can say that heartbeats. So these are the examples for involuntary. Here both voluntary and involuntary movement is, whereas in this case movement It takes place at organismic level, organ level, that is heart. Sometimes it also takes place at tissue level, and we can say cellular level. So cells, in case of, we can say that the blood cells, which shows movement, like macrophages and leukocytes. Macrophages and leukocytes are the best examples. So here, the very important thing you should keep in mind: locomotion, in which both, what is a change in position and location. So that is locomotion, change in position and location. Both can be seen. But whereas in movements, this is in case of locomotion, whereas in movements, only change in position, but not location, right? But not change in the location. So these are the things you have to keep in mind. Locomotion with a purpose. This will be always with purpose. That is why we will say this is voluntary. Next, in this the chapter, we have different types of movements and different types of the muscles associated with the locomotion. Let us take some the movement types of movements. Mainly includes non-muscular movements and muscular movements. Non-muscular and muscular movements. So in case of non-muscular movements, it includes, generally you can say, no muscles are involved. One best example, the type of that, you can say amoeboid movement. What is that? In this case, generally seen in leukocytes. That is what? Red blood cells. Sorry, that is white blood cells. Leukocytes, which shows phagocytosis with the help of amoeboid movement. So amoeboid movement can be seen in, that is, the cells. One such example, leukocytes, and also can be seen in macrophages. This is also cell, which we can say that the agranular cell, I can say agranulocyte. So this amoeboid movement mainly due to pseudopodia formation. And in organism level, as I have already mentioned, that movements takes place at organism level, or we can also say that the tissue level and also cellular level. So if you're going to see that example for organism level, that is amoeba is the best example. That is protozoa. So what is that? Generally in case of amoeboid movement, pseudopodia formation which takes place, pseudopodia, with the help of pseudopodia formation, the formation is mainly because of streaming of cytoplasm, streaming of protoplasm or cytoplasm, protoplasm or cytoplasm. Very important. Streaming of protoplasm or cytoplasm is called as cyclosis. Right, mainly seen in, generally you can say that the plants and lower organisms. Right, and We can also say that it can also be seen in, right, the cytoskeletal elements like microfilaments. Microfilaments. This is at cellular level. Microfilaments are the, what is it, cytoskeletal structures. Cytoskeletal structures. So one, you have to keep it in mind, example, leukocytes, macrophages and microfilaments. Next, the second type, that is flagellar movement. In case of flagellar movement, where the flagella involved. Then in case of amoeboid, the pseudopodia, here flagella. The example, the choanocytes. These are the specialized cells present seen in, what is that, porifera and cylindrates. Porifera and cylindrates, which helps in movement. Porifera and cylindrate. Right, and in case of organ, this is a generally this is a cell. Example, in case of, with respect to the cell, that is choanocytes, we are going to show flagellar movement. And if it is organ, generally we can say that the organ, or so in best we can say that there is also a kind of cell, but which produce in, what is the human body, that is the sperm. Right, so sperm, which shows, that is the tail and middle piece. Tail and middle piece. These structures show flagellar movement. That is why we can say sperms, which shows flagellar movement. Next, in case of hydra, cylindrates includes hydra. So that is, you have to keep it in mind. Flagellar movement with the help of flagella seen in porifera, that is what we can say sponges. And cylindrates mainly includes hydra. And in case of, what is it, the human body, that is higher organisms, the sperms, which we're going to show, sperms are the gametes, male gametes, which show motility. So motility is because of this flagella. Next, ciliary movement. In case of ciliary movements, that is by cilia. As name, what is it, the name itself, what is it, the term itself giving the clue, that is cilia, which play a major role in, what is it, the changing position. This type of movement mainly seen in tubular organs. What are those tubular organs? Best example, what is it? Trachea. In case of respiratory system, we studied about trachea. It is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Next, same like that. In case of oviduct, we can also call it as fallopian duct. Right, in case of female, reproductive tract. So fallopian tube, where we can see that is, which helps in the passage of ova. Ciliary movement helps in the passage of ova. And also in case of, this is in case of female. In case of male, what is that? There is the duct that is called as vasa efferentia, is a male reproductive, what is the tract. In the male reproductive tract, this helps in the passage of spermatozoa. Passage of spermatozoa. Passage of spermatozoa. Right. So next we can take the human muscular system. So as we know that these which are generally non-muscular. In case of muscular, muscles are involved. as we all know that there are three major types of muscles. One is skeletal muscle. One is skeletal muscle, and second is visceral muscle. We can also generally visceral muscles. In case of visceral muscles, that they will be present seen in internal organs. Right? Visceral muscles we can also call it as smooth muscles. And then cardiac muscles. So these cardiac muscles present only in the heart wall. So let us discuss about this. So skeletal muscle, visceral muscles, and cardiac muscles. So this generally the muscles in case of the higher organisms, they are mesodermal in origin. So these which comes under the connective tissue. Right? And whenever we're going to consider that, generally epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, right, connective tissue, nervous tissue. So these which we're going to associated with the connective tissue, that is skeletal muscles, if they are associated, they are called as skeletal muscles. Muscle which is in contact or in attachment with skeletal elements, or you can say bones, that is skeletal muscle. So that is what they are connected with the connective tissue. Right? Now let us take these muscles are mesodermal in origin. Right? Where generally we know that there are three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, middle mesoderm, and inner endoderm. So in that the mesoderm play a major role, that which these cells will going to differentiate to form the muscles. So total weight of the body is because of 50% of the weight of the body is because of these muscles. The special property of that excitability, contractility, extensibility, elasticity. So these are the the important and the characteristic feature of muscles. They can excite, right, due to which they can generally action potential on those the muscle cells can be generated, and so that the contraction and relaxation can be seen. So action potential means generally the gradient will going to change, right? Concentration gradient will going to change on that sarcolemma. So they can excite like nerves on neurons. Contractility, they can reduce extensibility, that means they can expand. Elasticity, they can stretch, right? So these are the things you have to keep it in mind. Next, in this, the based on the location, I already mentioned that there are, that is we can say based on the muscles, and also we can consider that is little function of those muscles. There are three types. One is a skeletal muscle. Striated means which are with stripes, striped muscles, striped and voluntary, right? So here visceral, non-striated and smooth muscles. Cardiac, these are striated and these both are involuntary. Right? So let us take one by one. Skeletal muscles, as I already mentioned that here you can see this is what they generally, these striations which are there. This striations because of the presence of alternative light and dark bands. Alternative light and dark bands. So that is what. So light band, generally we can say that the I band, and dark band which is called as EA band. I band is made up of the actin, it is the contractile protein, and A band is made up of myosin, that is also a contractile protein. These two are the contractile proteins. Because of the presence of these contractile proteins, one next to the other, the striped condition can be seen. Right, so these are the contractile proteins in the muscles. So here skeletal muscles with the striations are present, generally that is a striped, right, and then voluntary, which are directly not under the control, or can say that the directly under the control of will, right. So attached to skeleton, I already mentioned, hence the name skeletal muscles, and rich blood supply will be there. And these muscles are fatigue muscles. We can say that there won't be slow sustained contraction. So slow sustained contraction for longer duration, it won't be there. Muscle fiber is multinucleated. Here you can say that if this is the muscle fiber, here there will be more than one, or you can say more than two nucleus in one muscle fiber. That condition is called as syncytium. This is a cytoplasm. If you consider, in this cytoplasm of the muscle fiber, we can see many the nucleus, nuclei. So hence the name, which is called as syncytium, syncytium, or you can say syncytium. So here numerous mitochondria, where the energy ATP can be derived. Energy ATP can be derived. So human muscular system, that is in the second, the second type of muscle is visceral or smooth muscles. So these are associated with the visceral organs like intestine, visceral organs like can be seen in intestine, stomach, mainly which helps in showing peristalsis. I can say peristaltic movement. Striation is absent, no stripes in this. Here the structure can be like this. Both ends are pointed. Ends, they are called as spindle shape. Only one nucleus will be there. Ends, we can say uninucleated. So these are all, both visceral muscles and cardiac muscles are involuntary. These are involuntary. Found only in visceral organs, like already mentioned, that digestive tract, reproductive tract, urinary bladder. So urinary bladder, in which you can say generally we mentioned that the smooth muscles, right, which helps in the contraction, so that the urination can be seen, or can say can occur. So here the poor blood supply will be there. In case of skeletal muscle, rich blood supply, no fatigue, means they're going to show here no slow sustained contraction. Here in this case there will be slow sustained contraction. They won't get fatigue soon after involving in their functional activity. Uninucleate, we can say that only one nucleus will be there per muscle fiber. Less mitochondria will be there. Cardiac muscles, here in this case striations are present, same like skeletal muscle, but these are involuntary, whereas skeletal muscles are voluntary, found only in the heart wall, right. Hence the name the cardiac muscles. Rich blood supply will be there and no fatigue. So here one thing you have to keep in mind, that in the during the development, embryonic development, in the first month, right, generally during first month heart development takes place. That to the end of the month, that is on third week, it starts to beat. So here you should keep in mind that the third week embryo, the heart starts to beat, but till death it will be keep on beating. So just imagine that it is Generally, as we all studied in the body fluid and circulation, the heartbeat per minute will be 72 times. Like that, how many times these years in these years of lifespan it will going to beat. So that is what we can say non-fatigue, because of the presence of numerous mitochondria, and here this is uninucleate, same like smooth muscles. And one very important thing here, you can observe that these muscles are right branched. Muscle fibers are branched. So this is where you can say that they are branched. So where the one muscle fiber is in contact with other muscle fiber, there will be a, what is that, the disc-like structure which are called as intercalated disc. So this intercalated disc is the characteristic feature of the heart muscles. So this is also uninucleate, and this one. So finally, this is what you can go through this slide. Difference between skeletal, visceral, and cardiac muscle. So let us take the muscle. Some of the questions related to this, what we discussed now. Some voluntary movements, those results in change of, the change of place or location. We know that change of place or location, which will be called as locomotion. Right, so answer for that, locomotion. Transformation is going to change its form. Translocation, that is, you can say that generally in case of the plants, we can say where food source, which will be food, where it will produce, from that to where it will be utilized, it will move. So that is translocation. And transmutation, it will going to change its generally kind of mutation, right? Next, amoeboid movements in sperms are affected by. So I already mentioned that amoeboid movement is mainly because of streaming of cytoplasm, which leads to formation of pseudopodia. That is what cyclosis, streaming of protoplasm. That is what generally streaming of protoplasm leads to formation of pseudopodia. Which helps in amoeboid movement, Hence the name which is called as amoeboid movement. So example, can be seen in amoeba, leukocytes and macrophages. Right, flagella, that will be there in choanocytes. Ciliated tubular organs, right, and in case of organism we can say paramecium. Right, next, pseudocele, that is actually generally we'll say that is coelom, which is not derived from mesoder. Right, so pseudocele, coelom. Macrophages and leukocytes exhibit. We know that generally these which will going to exhibit the amoeboid movement, right? Amoeboid movement. So ciliary movement, we know that with the help of cilia. Flagellar movement with the help of flagella. Gliding movement, what is that? Generally the gliding movement which will be there in certain bones, we can see that is gliding joints, right? So bones which glides, one bone that which glides over the another bone. So that is gliding movement. Next, which of the following statement is incorrect? So heart muscles are they strained and involuntary. Strained means we can also say that striated or striped. Heart muscles are striped, that is correct. They are involuntary, that is also correct. Heart muscles of hands and legs are strained and voluntary, that is also correct. The muscles strained means that is striped, right? Muscles located in the reproductive tract are unstriated and involuntary, that is what we can say smooth muscles, that is also correct. The muscles located in the inner wall of the alimentary canal are striated and involuntary. Same like inner wall of the alimentary canal and also reproductive tract. In both we can see smooth muscles only. But here smooth muscles are not, they are not striated. But here in this question they are given canals are striated and involuntary. Involuntary is correct, but they are not striated. So fourth statement is wrong statement. The activities of visceral muscles are not under the voluntary control of the nervous system and are therefore known as, means visceral muscles not under the control of voluntary, means it is not under the control of will. Right, you can't, what is it, the control the movement, that is you can say peristalsis, or you can say sometimes churning will be there in case of stomach, right? Churning movement will be there, right? So these movements won't be there. And sometimes you can say that the segmentation which takes place in small intestine, so these movements are under the control of the central nervous system, that is autonomous nervous system. So hence we can say generally the activities of visceral muscles are not under the voluntary control of the nervous system and therefore known as, these are involuntary muscles. Involuntary muscles. So they are non-striated, that is also we can say, but based on this activities of the visceral muscles are not under the voluntary control, hence we can say these are involuntary muscles. Next, so this is related to cervical vertebrae. Cervical vertebrae in one of the following are 7. So whenever we are going to take this skeletal system in a human being, vertebral column, which includes, what is it, 5 types of vertebrae. In that 5 types, the first one is cervical vertebrae. So in this cervical vertebrae, there are 7, what is it, the vertebra. Right, so these 7 vertebra which are placed one above the other, in between there is intervertebral disc will be there. So in this case you have to keep it in mind, in each and every, what is it, the, in almost all mammals, or I can say in each and every animals, right, so mammals, we can see generally 7, what is it, the cervical vertebrae, that is the common in almost all mammals. So that is what we can say cervical vertebrae. And the second one, thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic vertebrae, there are 12 which are generally, what is it, the attached with on either side of the each vertebrae. If you consider these are the thoracic vertebrae, on each side we can see, what is that, the ribs. So there will be 12, 7 cervical vertebrae, and below that, right above that, there will be cervical vertebrae here, and below that there will be 12. So to these vertebrae on both sides we can see, what is it, the ribs. So that is thoracic vertebrae, it is 12 in number. And next to that is lumbar vertebrae. Lumbar vertebrae is 5 in number, which has a units 5. And sacral vertebrae, right, we can also call it as sacrum. Right, here it is actually the embryonic stage made up of 5 bones fuse to form one bone in adults. And the 5th type is coccyx or coccygeal vertebra. Coccyx or coccygeal vertebra, that is a tail vertebra. Generally in case of us it is reduced, right, we can also call it as a caudal vertebra. This is also one, actually that is in embryonic stage, it is with 4 bones which are fused to form one. So total, what is it, the vertebrae, the vertebral column, total vertebrae in the embryonic stage will be, 33 vertebrae. 33 vertebrae will be there in the embryonic stage, whereas 26 in what is that? Adults. 26. We may get this question. Vertebral formula. So that we can write 7, 12, 5, 1, 1. That is in case of adult. So if they're going to ask embryonic, what is the formula? Embryonic formula in case of embryonic stage 7, 12, 5, 5, 4. So here there will be 33 and here there will be 26. But 7 in most of the mammals, whether it may be embryonic stage or what is it, the adult stage, in most of the mammals, whether it be rabbit, elephant, giraffe, anything. So in all these, we can see 7 cervical vertebra. So next question. Read the statement regarding muscle protein. Right. So generally I have already mentioned that there are two muscle proteins, actin and myosin. So actin is thin, myosin is thick because of the presence of those filaments. So let us take this, the question. Actin is a thin filament and is made up of the F-actin, means filamentous actin. So this filamentous actin, 2F-actin you can write. That is correct. Right. Read the statement regarding the muscle protein. Correct. And complex protein tropomyosin is distributed at the regular intervals on troponin. Now, if you consider that this is a structure, so these are the globular structures. These are two filamentous actin will be there like this. On this we can see, right, tropomyosin. On the tropomyosin we can see generally these are the troponin. So this is tropomyosin. What is it? Tropomyosin. On that we can see troponin. That is in actin filament. And these are the 2F actin filaments. So this is a structure of actin. So in this case we can say that this is a wrong statement. Tropomyosin is distributed at regular intervals on troponin. No, it should be like the troponin is distributed at regular intervals on tropomyosin. Hence this statement is wrong. Next, myosin is a thick filament which is also polymerized protein. That is also correct. Made up of generally many monomers, is a polymerized protein. Globular head of meromyosin consists of light meromyosin. So globular head, if you're going to say this in case of myosin head, that is made up of HMM. That is heavy meromyosin. That is wrong. So 1, 3 are correct. So here you can say that is wrong. Here also wrong. 1, 3 are correct. So whereas 1, 2, 4 are correct, they are telling no. So 1, 3 are correct, whereas second and fourth statements are wrong. So this is what you have to keep in mind. In detail we can discuss this question related to this in the next part also. Next, the smallest bone. So here ear ossicles are there, generally which are present laterally to the cranium, or you can say that inside the cranium only, right, within the middle ear, right. So they are called as ear ossicles. There are three types: malleus, incus, stapes. So among these, the smallest one altogether forms the ear ossicles. Smallest is stapes. Smallest bone in man is stapes. Patella is a kneecap. It is kneecap, right. Palatine is which forms a palate, upper roof of the mouth. Upper roof of the mouth, that is the palate. Next, aversion system. So if you consider that in case of bone, the matrix, bone matrix is hard, and mainly hard due to the presence of calcium salts, and also fibers are present. So in case of calcium salt in bone, calcium salt makes that matrix hard, whereas in cartilage, we can see what is it, chondroitin salts. Chondroitin salts, due to presence of this chondroitin salts in matrix of the cartilage, they are soft, we can say pliable, means that is soft and they can stretch little. So this is what the pliable. So here, if you're going to see this, the bone structure, then this is called as aversion canal, where these fibers, bone TS, if you're going to see that, so this is how aversion canal is a canal through which the blood supply will be there to the bones. So this is in the form of lamellae, or it may be in the form of trabeculae. So that is the bone structure. There are two types of bones. One is a compact bone, a spongy bone. Right? There will be different arrangement will be there. In compact bone, we can say that lamellae will be there. Right? Lamellae, and here in spongy bone, trabeculae arrangement. Trabeculae. Right? Lamellae means in layer, one by one membrane, one layer to the next. Trabeculae means which is like this, branched, and which is not in the form of lining, and there it forms a space. So this space in birds, it is filled with air. In mammals, it is filled with bone marrow. Hence in birds, such type of spongy bones are called as pneumatic bones. Pneumatic bones. So this is very important. So this is what aversion canal. So aversion canal is a canal through which blood supply will be there for bones. Blood supply, as we all know that blood vessels involved in blood supply. So blood vessels, right, which will going to supply blood to, what is it, the bones here. So this is exactly, you can say here, sorry, inside we can write this aversion canal. In this canal we can see blood supply. The canal is only for, what is it, blood vessels. So that is the characteristic feature of mammalian bones. Next, number of cervical vertebrae in camel is, so same thing, I already mentioned that cervical vertebrae is always 7. So more than the rabbit, no, less than the rabbit, wrong, same as that of whale. That is also mammal. So in case of that we can consider, so even in giraffe, that is, we can say completely longest neck, in that case also there are 7, what is it, the cervical vertebrae only. So there they will be longer than other, what is it, the cervical vertebrae. So those 7 cervical vertebrae are always present in the neck region. That is, you have to keep it in mind. In the thoracic region, that is thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic vertebrae. In the trunk region, lumbar vertebrae. So that is what they can say, abdominal region, better to say. In the abdominal region, lumbar vertebrae. In the trunk region, right, that is sacrum. In the end, that is the completely posteriorly placed vertebrae are called as coccyx or coccygeal vertebrae. So this is what you have to keep in mind. Which of the following muscles are primarily involved in locomotor actions? So we know that generally some which will be involved in movements, but all those movements that the together helps in locomotion, right? So that is why we can say all locomotions are movements, but all movements are not locomotions. So here in this case, generally locomotion mainly because of skeletal muscles. That is, they are voluntary, and these two are involuntary. They helps in movements but not in locomotion. Both, what is it, the change in position and location will consider as locomotion. Position and location. So position may be seen in, change in position may be seen in organ or parts of the body, but whole body will going to change its position from one place to the other place. So then only we can consider this as locomotion, right? So that is why select the incorrect statement with respect to the actin filament. So when a muscle fiber, generally this is in case of sliding filament theory, I will take this question later, don't worry about that. In this, the globular head HMM is an active ATPase enzyme, as this is also sliding filament theory. We'll take that in the part 2. So joint between bones of human skull. Generally there are 3 types of joints. One is fibrous joint, and the second one is cartilaginous joint, and third one is synovial joint. This fibrous joint, immovable joint, no movements can be seen, so immovable joint. And cartilaginous, slight movement will be there. Synovial, compared to cartilaginous, there will be considerable movement, right? Or you can say that the more movement will be there than the cartilaginous movement. Considerable movements will be there. So that is why you can say generally in the fibrous, no movement that will be there in the skull bone. So that bone, that joint between those bones is called as fibrous joint. In mammals, the lower jaw is made up of. So lower jaw is called as mandible, only bone in the skull, or you can say that the facial bone which show movement, and it is the longest bone in the face. Longest bone in the face. So answer for that is the lower is mandible and upper jawbone is maxilla. Next, the longest bone is that. So generally longest bone, which is the thigh bone, which is also called as femur bone, which mainly supports to bear the body weight. Bear the body weight. It supports the vertebral column. So clavicle or collarbone that articulates. Generally this will be seen in pectoral girdle. That is what we can say that the shoulder joint. So clavicle, which is a collarbone that articulates with the sternum, and also acromion process of the scapula. If this is a triangular bone, and here will be a glenoid cavity, and this is a spine ridge. In this the process will be there to which the clavicle will be going to attach. So this is a clavicle, and this process is called as acromion process. And to this humerus head will be going to fix, that cavity is called as glenoid cavity. So this is what acromion process. So that acromion process is a facet surface to which clavicle will going to articulate. So that is what acromion process. So with this we can stop this class. We'll continue in the next class. Thank you.